If you want to change some aspect of your life, you want to take your life in a different direction, it comes down to breaking patterns within yourself. You have to actually become a different person in the way you think, in the way you act, in the way you respond, because all too often we live from reactivity within ourselves. And this reactivity is actually what strengthens the patterns of compulsive living within ourselves. The more that we react to an emotion or a thought or a trigger or an urge, anything, the more identified we become with those things, the more we reinforce that pattern and the more we live on autopilot. And those patterns are what end up running our life. So, a key thing in being able to change your life and change the direction you take it is being able to just sit and really not do anything. Kind of ironic that if you want to take your life in a different direction, you have to start by not doing anything. Because think about it this way: if you had a car moving in a certain direction and you realize that you were going the wrong way in the car, you'd first have to slow down and then stop and then go the other way. The same thing is true in life. If you feel like you're going in the wrong direction, you're not taking your life in the direction that you want to take it, you're not being the person that you want to be, first you have to slow down. Because in slowing down, you tap into awareness, mindfulness, and you see the compulsive reactions and the autopilot behaviors that have controlled your life. The thought processes, the beliefs, the doubt, the fear, whatever it is. And in slowing down, you can actually see these things, then you can consciously decide if you want to continue living from these patterns. Now, it's easy to conceptualize this. It's a lot harder when the rubber hits the road and you actually are faced with your nervous system dysregulation and the compulsive patterns and the momentum of that, like the car driving in that direction. There's a lot of inertia that comes with making changes. The same way that when you put the brakes on in your car, there's a lot of force that it requires to stop that car and slow it down so you can turn around and go in the other way. Same is true in life. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of focus, a lot of willpower to not react. And that's not even making a different choice. That's just not reacting. Making a different choice can sometimes be even harder. So the first step in really making a change within yourself is just observation, not reacting, just being. In this state, you expand your awareness around all of the things that have held you back, have kept you stuck, have led your life in the direction that it has gone in, and ultimately to where you are right now. You become aware of the self-concept, the ego, the identity that you've lived by. Because in the end, if you want to live a different life, a different reality, you have to have a different identity, because who you have been is that is what has created the life that you're currently living. So in order to live a different life, you have to create a different identity. You have to break free of the patterns of the current identity that you're living in. And a lot of this comes back to awareness, but nervous system regulation. Because when our nervous system is dysregulated, we live from reactivity. We live from compulsive urges, and we are very compulsive with our urges. There's no impulse control really, because when our nervous system is dysregulated, we're in fight or flight. We're living from the automatic and autopilot thoughts and behaviors that have controlled our life so far. So in order to regulate, you have to actually go through that obstacle of being triggered, of being reactive, of whatever it is, the compulsion to act or react or do the same thing. The way you regulate is by being aware and not doing anything, just pausing, just sitting with it, being within your body and allowing that feeling to pass through you. The more you can do this, the more you begin to regulate yourself, you begin to be the regulator of yourself rather than using something outside of you to regulate. Because a lot of times the way we cope with a dysregulated nervous system, again, is through fight or flight. And that shows up in different behaviors. We freeze up sometimes, we avoid, we procrastinate, we overstimulate our minds. And it's these things that pull us away from ourselves, that awareness. And being regulated is being aware, being conscious. So the way in which we start by changing our lives and changing the reality is by regulating our nervous system. When we can sit with our emotions and our thoughts and our fears and everything that's going on within, and we can reparent ourselves, we can be the conscious adult within our body that is calming the nervous system, sitting with it and breathing with it rather than reacting to it. You create different thought processes. You expand your way of being. The old ways of being no longer control you anymore. And when the old ways of being no longer control you, it frees up that space for you to make a different choice. It's like you being the parent or the adult, conscious adult within your own body, regulating your nervous system is the equivalent of you slowing down that car, you breaking the patterns of reactivity into stillness. And when you slow that car down, you can then turn around and move in a different direction. But all too often, we focus on changing our behaviors without regulating our nervous system. It's like, and that equivalent of that would be, okay, I'm driving 100 kilometers an hour in one way, one direction, and I'm not even going to try and slow down the car. I'm just going to turn the wheel right away. Your car is going to flip. And you're gonna get derailed. Same thing is true with us. A lot of times we try and change our behaviors or change our thought processes without regulating ourselves first. A regulated nervous system is like unlocking a door that makes it a lot easier to make these cognitive or behavioral changes within yourself. So again, there's no secret recipe to doing it. You just live in the moment with whatever it is that you're experiencing, being present and not reacting, because through this, you take your power back. The other thing with a dysregulated nervous system is overstimulation. Quite often when we're dysregulated, we feel the compulsion to continually stimulate our mind with cheap dopamine or highly pleasurable experiences or stimulus. And this could be anything from drugs, alcohol, shopping, video games, Netflix, social media, pornography, anything. You name it, we all have our own vices that we've lived by, that we've used to cope with and soothe our nervous system without even realizing it. Again, these become compulsive ways of living. And the thing is the more that we engage in these behaviors, the brain and the body is a very sophisticated system. And as soon as you overstimulate your mind with pleasurable activities or substances, think of it as a balance or a teeter-totter, and you tip that balance towards the side of pleasure. And the brain and the body will automatically try and find homeostasis, which is a balance. So it will then tip that balance back to the side of pain, because pleasure and pain happen in the same part of the brain. And as soon as you feel that pain, that is when, say you scroll your phone, you bed rot, you doom scroll for an hour or something like that. Well, what happens afterwards, I'm sure you've experienced this, I know I have, you feel unmotivated, you might feel irritable, you feel bored, your overall sense of energy and well-being drops. That's that brain balance tipping to the side of pain. And quite often what we compulsively do is stimulate our mind more because we don't want to feel that way. So you never have to. Everything is so accessible now. You can just hop back on your phone and scroll again. You can eat some sugary food. You can change up what that stimulus is, but you can always bring back that and trigger that reward pathway. And again, the more that we expose ourselves to this, the more that balance tips to the side of pain or pleasure. And subsequently, the more it's going to tip to the side of pain, because we get something called tolerance or neuroadaptation. And basically, what that is the brain, again, it adapts to the stimulus it's given. So does the body. So when you give your body or your brain a stimulus, over time it's going to adapt to it. So that threshold increases. You're going to need more of that stimulus just to get the same effect. So imagine if you scrolled Instagram for 10 minutes one day and you've never looked at Instagram before. That's going to be a lot of high reward activity, cheap dopamine, if you will. And in doing that, again, it's going to even out eventually. You're going to get that pain, that boredom or whatever, but you'll come back to neutral. Over time, when you do that, 10 minutes is going to seem like nothing. You're going to need 30 minutes just to get the same result. And eventually what happens is you need so much stimulus just to feel okay, not even to feel good, just to not feel crappy within yourself. So what happens is this feeds into this compulsive way of living. It's one way that we, again, try and regulate our nervous system or cope with a dysregulated nervous system is through overstimulation. So on one hand, you have the dysregulated nervous system, which is feeding into the overstimulation. And then that overstimulation is creating more discomfort, discontentment, or dissatisfaction within yourself, which is going to lead back into that dysregulation. They kind of feed back into each other. It's like a cycle. So again, it's not easy, but the way to break the cycle is by being conscious and slowing down. Again, you're slowing down that car by just being aware, by regulating your nervous system with your breath, by being within your body, not in your mind. This isn't something that can be conceptualized and thought through. You can think about it, but thinking about it is not going to regulate your nervous system. You can only do that by putting your conceptual understanding into experience, into practice. Because by living in practice, you will actually then begin to regulate your nervous system. And again, when you regulate that, you making healthier or more conscious decisions that are aligned with the person that you want to be or the direction you want to take your life is a lot easier. It's very, very difficult to make these types of choices, to change yourself, change your identity, change your life, if you are operating from the same dysregulated nervous system and the same unconscious patterns. So I hope this video helps you make the first changes within your own life. The key thing is, again, slowing down and being present, doing nothing. You're slowing down that car so you can take it to a stop and move the other direction. So hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.